everybody. Welcome to the Hidden Gems podcast. And this is a show where we like to talk about a streaming service and some of the hidden gems that you should check out on that service. It's so much fun. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Ryan is here.
Hey Rachel, it's great to be back with you once again. It's been a weird week for me. It's one of those weeks that one of those things happen. Long story short, the brakes in my car just basically died on me. I wasn't driving. I wasn't driving, thank God. I was backing out of somewhere, and I went to brake, and I was like, "Uh-oh!" It was like the pedal went straight to the floor, and so I barely stopped the thing with whatever brake power I had left. As we're recording this, it's currently on the operating table, so by the time this comes out, I will have the car back. But it's one of those things where you just take for granted something as simple as the brakes in your car. You use it every time you're there, and when you don't, when it's not there to help you, it's oh, it'll always be there, when in reality, no, it really won't, and you gotta take care of it and look out for it.
Yeah,
So
that's one of those moments you say a prayer that that you are protected.
Yeah, that's why I always say that there is a God and that everything does happen for a reason. Because I could have been driving on the highway on I-4 at 80 miles an hour, and I would have just been I would have literally been on the Fury Road. It would have not ended well for me. So I'm
glad you're okay.
I had to use a tow truck for the first time, which I was surprisingly easy, believe it or not. And I was a little worried, how it would work out, but it got to the dealership just fine. And I got a guy who was doing it for 31 years and hadn't lost a car since, which, if you're going to use a tow truck, kids, use that guy. Find someone who has been doing it for decades, actual human decades, and knows exactly what he's doing. Or she. I've seen female truck drivers too.
Yeah. Well, and if you can find a place that's reliable and that you can trust.
Yeah, absolutely. And
hard.
Other than that, though, I'm still trying to grow back some brain cells because I watched the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Netflix, which is what we're going to be talking about. And honestly, I have an entire review up on my channel if you'd like to go check that out. But it is easily one of the most disgusting movies that I have seen all year, and I don't think it's going to come anywhere close to topping it. It's so bad. I'm half tempted to spoil why it's so bad here, but I have a feeling there might be some people who might want to watch it, though.
Well, it's funny because everybody's been tweeting about TCM, and I always have to kind of stop myself because I think they're talking at first about Turner Classic Movies.
It's not that at all.
Yeah, so this sounds, I feel like when horror goes wrong, it goes really wrong.
It makes me sad because when something like The Forever Purge comes out, which is just, I felt like my brain was in one of those hydraulic presses. It'd be like, you don't like Trump, we get it. Just tell an interesting story, please.
Right.
And again, without going into spoilers in this one, literally one of the first scenes, and I guess this is a light spoiler, but I'm using it as an example. One of the first scenes of the movie, one of the main characters sees a gentleman with a 9mm strapped to his hip. And she turns to him and be like, man, I wonder what he's compensating for. And comments on the possible size of his, And it's so cringy because and I don't want to get into that conversation because that's a whole nother ball of wax that I am not prepared to discuss. But if you're going to do any kind of social commentary, pick one issue and stick to that. And if you do it well, then bravo. But there are directors who will be like, I'm saying something. No, you're saying something in a movie about a fat dude who wears a leather skin mask who wields a chainsaw. Read the room, David Blue Garcia. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, luckily there has been some good stuff on Netflix.
Yeah. There is good stuff, yes.
Yeah. And I don't know if I could count this as hidden gem because it's pretty popular, but I did want to give a shout out to Sweet Magnolias season 2. It debuted a couple of weeks ago on Netflix, and we've been waiting 2 years for the new season, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that all the stories were pretty strong, especially anything to do with the teens was really good, well acted, well done. And if you want some melodrama in your life, it's a good show, very well done show, well cast, and like I said, especially the teens. And I'm normally not a teen drama person, but I really like Sweet Magnolias. And if you want to hear more of my thoughts on Sweet Magnolias, you can check out. We did a episodes 1 through 5 and then 6 through 10 recaps over at Hallmark's podcast with Austin Burke, and so that was pretty fun.
Does this have any relation to Steel Magnolias?
No, except for the fact they're both in the South. I forget where Steel Magnolias is, if it's Alabama or Georgia or Florida. I can't remember, but anyway, they're both in the South. That's really the only similarity, and I guess all both about a group of friends, women friends. But yeah, it's definitely a good show. It's just well written, well acted, and I said especially the teens in the show. So if you want to hear more, check out I'll put the links down to those episodes with Austin. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, definitely not on Netflix, but I've been watching Reacher on Amazon Prime.
Oh yeah.
Whoever runs that show needs to be involved in more stuff because they're doing a great job. I'm only a couple episodes in. I will finish it.
Is that the same character as the Tom Cruise Reacher movies?
Jack Reacher? The same, but better. Like the actor they got to play Reacher, I describe him as Sherlock Holmes in John Cena's body. He is so smart, but if you cross him, he will beat you down. One of the first episodes, it involves a prison. You'll know it when you see it. But yeah, whoever is running the Reacher show needs to be involved in more projects, because I went in there thinking, oh, this will be interesting, and now it's I can't wait to see the rest, and things have gotten in the way, but I will be finishing it.
Cool. Great. Well, let's dive into our hidden gems for Netflix. This is our 11th Netflix episode, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's creeping up on Disney Plus as the amount of episodes we've done on it.
Yeah. Well, what's your first choice?
So my first choice, and I was worried that I had recommended this one before, but I checked the Letterboxd list and I did not see it. So I'm going to recommend it right now. It is called Looper. This was directed by Rian Johnson. I know he's a bit of a controversial figure nowadays because of the whole Last Jedi thing, but I think this is his best movie. It tells a story of, in the near future, time travel has not been invented yet, but it eventually will be, and it will immediately be outlawed. It's nearly impossible to get rid of a body in the future. So the largest criminal organizations in the world use time travel to send their enemies back in time about 40 years to where a looper, in the case of this movie played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, is there with a shotgun, and the person arrives bound and gagged, and Gordon-Levitt's like, oh, hi, and then does the deed, collects a silver payment, and Bob's your uncle. And things are going well until Joseph Gordon-Levitt is encountered by his older self, played by Bruce Willis. Now, in the movie, it is portrayed as a pretty normal thing. If you're no longer needed, they will do a thing called closing your loop, basically sending your older self back to where you basically kill your older self. You get a solid gold payment, and you have about 40 years left to live out the rest of your life. However, the context is much different here because the older Joseph Gordon-Levitt has things to live for and wants to take out the person who orchestrated him being sent back before he can get into power. I know it's a little weird and trying to make sense of that, but trust me, the movie is actually really, really solid. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is one of my favorite actors that I rarely see anymore. It feels like he's in a handful of things, and he was a big deal in the early 2010s. He was doing Hit Record on TV, which is a show that I love. Like, he was in a movie called Premium Rush, which, if the opportunity arises, I will be recommending on here because that movie is a lot of fun. Bruce Willis, I think, has gotten the reputation of being like in just straight to DVD stuff. I mean, the Razzies literally named an award after him
There were
recently.
a lot of movies listed. I was like, whoa. I mean,
It's
he was in like 12 movies in 2021.
it's really, really it's really sad to see that this is what he's doing now, because he's actually quite good in Looper, and the movie does a great job of telling the story of the older version of Joseph Gordon-Levitt being so, like, finding peace outside of the looping thing and not wanting to lose that. And so it's a question of knowing what's going to happen. What do you do about it? Do you change it, or do you, in the moment, do something drastic to throw all of that out of balance? Uh, Emily Blunt is also in here, and she's pretty much great in anything. And the ending is a bit weird. I won't spoil it. I think it might not be for everyone, but I feel like Rian Johnson's slowly becoming a filmmaker who isn't for everyone. But I won't open that can of worms here. I think this is going to be a hot take, but I still think that Looper is Rian Johnson's best movie by a good chunk of time, or by a good portion.
Yeah, I can't remember much about this movie. I have seen it. It's been a while. But yeah, I mean, it's a clever premise, and I forgot that Emily Blunt was in it. But yeah, she is in it, and she's good in it. So yeah, I think I remember liking it.
Yeah, the child actor they get here is also really good. And child actors can be a bit suspect, but he
Mhm.
actually does a good job for the stuff that he is given. And,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
without spoiling anything, he is quite integral to the story. That's all
Ooh,
I will say here.
right. Yeah, I remember thinking that ending was bonkers, but I can't remember what it was. It's
Yeah, like I
been a
said,
while.
it's gonna be tricky for some people, and some people may not like it, and I totally understand why. But I guess I was at the right age. Like, it was like just in my sci-fi, like hard sci-fi, like early years. So maybe it's rose tinted glasses, but I still think, like I said, this is Rian Johnson's best movie. And I know people love Last Jedi and Knives Out, and I think Knives Out is kind of overrated personally. But I know that's going to get me a lot of hate. But I'm interested to see Knives Out too. I know that's coming to Netflix very soon, so here's to hoping.
I enjoyed Knives Out. I thought it was a fun lark. I didn't take it too seriously, I guess. It was just kind of a mystery, kind of. I kind of looked at it as like a fancier version of what we get at Hallmark with these murder mystery shows that they give us, and they even have some Hallmark jokes in Knives Out. But it
The,
wasn't like my favorite movie of the year or anything. But I thought it was fun.
the cast is stellar. I'm not going to lie. It's one of the best casts of 2019. Daniel
Mhm.
Craig doing like a pitch perfect Southern accent. Like, that
Yeah,
man, like, there in Logan Lucky, his Southern accent is like really underrated. It's great. The late Christopher Plummer is not there much, but when he is there, he's predictably great. Jamie Lee Curtis, Chris Evans,
Chris
the
Evans is fun in it.
yeah, he's clearly having the time of his life in there. Toni Collette, I like her as well. So it's a great cast, but there's a choice about 20 minutes into the movie that this movie makes, and I'm sure you know exactly the one I'm talking about. That,
With the
I don't know,
puking.
it involves the nurse's bag.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That it just turned me off of the movie. Maybe I just have to see it again.
Hmm.
But people was like, "Oh, the dialogue is so great and the chemistry." It was like, yeah, it's really well acted, but once I learned of the thing that happens, it just it was like it just made me think, and it is just like like think bad things and answer questions that I asked questions that I don't think I was supposed to ask. But
Fair
anyway,
enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, my first pick is a movie that's an in-between season movie of a show that I love. It's called Hilda, is the show, and the movie is called Hilda and the Mountain King. And I think I've already recommended Hilda before. So this is kind of a cheat, I guess, but they did have this movie come out at the end of December, and I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I love the animation. I love character of Hilda. She's such a great character, so positive. And I thought for a while that this was going to be the series finale, this movie, but it turns out they are doing a series 3. So this is just like a bridge in between series 2 and series 3. So that makes me happy because I want more Hilda. And basically, you kind of have to have seen season 2 in order to watch this movie. But she ends up in the body of a troll, and her mom knows that she's in the body of a troll. And they live in this town called Trollberg, and so there's this magical realism in the town. So her mom is trying to find Hilda, and there is this Mountie named Eric Alberg that is trying to take down all the trolls. He hates the trolls. And so, or obviously that puts him at odds with Hilda's mother, who wants to try to save Hilda as a troll. And so, yeah, it's a really creative story. It's so positive, and even our kind of villain characters have a redemption kind of arc in the movie. And I just love everything about it. I love the music. I love the characters. I love the animation. And so if you haven't seen Hilda, I highly recommend it. First 2 seasons, and then this movie, Hilda and the Mountain King. It's great.
the town is literally called Trollberg. That's
Yeah. Yep.
feel like a lot of people online exist in Trollberg.
Right. So, yeah, I highly recommend it. If you have a chance, watch Hilda. I think you'd like it. It's so good. It's so positive that I can't imagine anybody not liking it.
Yeah, I'll definitely be looking into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, it's only 2 seasons. They're 30 minutes each, 10 to 12 episodes. I can't remember. Anyway, so it's not that big of a commitment to watch. Plus this movie, so it was cool to get a movie, and I'm just so glad that we're getting season 3. Yay!
It's a nice feeling to have things you actually like get more of
right
of the thing.
Yeah. So what is your next pick?
So my next choice is a comedy from 2008, and it is called First Sunday. This starred Ice Cube and Tracy Morgan. They are best friends, and they're also criminals. And at the time of this movie, they are serving about 5,000 hours of community service. And both of them need money fast. They have a lot of debts. In the case of Ice Cube's character, he needs to pay his ex-wife a larger sum, and in the case of Tracy Morgan's character, he owes a lot of very scummy people a lot of money. And so they come up with the idea to rob a church. Stay with me, the movie's actually good. So they plan the robbery, they get into the church, they get to where they've got all the church staff, like exactly where they want them. They get to the safe, they open the safe, and there is no money in the safe. Someone beat them to it. And like I said, I think I was in the right place, in the right mindset for this movie, because I actually kind of dig it. I like Ice Cube as an actor. I like as a person as well. I think as well, like in interviews I've seen of him, I've liked what he's had to say. But I think he can be a good actor as well. Tracy Morgan can be a tad grating. It depends on which role he's given here. But his name is Lee John, and there's a great scene where he explains to one of the church staff why he's named Lee John. It's because his mom liked the names Lee and John, so she combined the two to make Lee John. And without spoiling anything, there's actually quite a bit of tragedy here, and I think for the most part, it's actually handled pretty well. There's actually a great montage where Ice Cube is interviewing all of the staff, and he's asking, "So what would you do if you had all of that money?" And it gets to the pastor's daughter, and like he's asking her all these questions, and it gets to keep this church from moving to the suburbs, because there's a subplot where the money is meant to fix the roof of the church. However, she secretly wants to take the money and move it to, well, the suburbs. It's not really a super like she's not super committed to it, but it's something that she wants. And I think this movie got kind of shellacked by critics, and this is one of those where I'm like, am I the only one who kind of liked this? Because
What is it called again?
First Sunday, it's with,
Oh,
and it, like I said, it's one of those ones that critics hated that I just kind of liked.
I know that I've never even heard of it. Yeah, look at that.
It also has Cat Williams as the choir director, which, not gonna lie, I've run into some choir directors who exhibit some of Cat Williams's traits here. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
like Cat Williams definitely studied like church, like choir directors, especially church choir directors. I'm not burying anyone. I'm just saying, like, watching his performance and like, I've met this character a couple of times.
Well, I think we all have those comedies that we like that everybody else just hates.
Yeah, exactly.
It happens.
And there's there's a great scene where it's one of those where it's like someone is saying, "I'm not going to do something, no matter how many times you ask, I'm not going to do it," and then smash cut to them actually doing it. It's actually
Yeah.
pretty funny here.
Like, I thought Venom 2 was hilarious. I laughed and laughed and laughed throughout that whole movie. And I walked out being like, that was a hoot. I really enjoyed that film. And it seemed like almost nobody else liked it.
I thought it was weird, but I
Yeah,
think I said in
it's
my
weird.
review that I added the caveat of, if you liked it, I totally get it, but wow, this movie is nuttier than a bowl of fruits and nuts.
Yeah, and I guess I appreciated that. I enjoyed it. But my next pick is actually a movie I don't love, but I think if you can watch it on Netflix, it's like it's decent, and it's way better than most of the teen rom-coms that they have on Netflix. It's called The Duff, and it stars Mae Whitman as she finds out that she is the Duff of her friends, the designated ugly fat friend. And she's kind of like the person that they have in their group to make them feel better about themselves, and that everybody kind of knows that. And so she gets frustrated, so she turns to her neighbor, played by Robbie Amell, to give her advice on how to not be the Duff anymore. And the thing, I guess, that's interesting about this movie is that the way that it talked about social media, and because this is back in 2015, and there's a point in the movie where she gets outed, I guess. Not outed. She gets treated very meanly by a girl on social media, and the whole school knows, and it's really embarrassing. But like, I thought it was interesting because the attitude of the filmmakers and the characters in the film was like, it's your turn. Everybody, it happens to everybody. Deal with it. Don't make a big deal out of it. And that was so shocking to me, because if something like what happened to her happened to me when I was in high school, I would have been just, mortified. But then I talked to my sister, who was 16, I think, at the time. And I said, is that kind of the way that people look at it? That, okay, here's your turn to be embarrassed on social media, and then you just kind of move on. And she said, yeah, absolutely, that's the way it is, which I thought was really interesting, the difference between different generations. I mean, the biggest flaw with this movie is that Mae Whitman and Robbie Amell do not look like teenagers in the slightest. And
Yeah.
so it's a little bit Yeah, and then they have Bella Thorne, and she looks way too old. They all look way too old, so that's a big problem. Also, the Mae Whitman character can be pretty mean to her friends. Like, yes, it's a kind of a mean thing that they've done to her to declare her the Duff, but she is pretty harsh to them in response. And um yeah, so it makes her a little bit unlikable. She's a little mean, which you don't want for your main character. So, but I do think that her and Robbie have nice chemistry. And like I said, it has some interesting things to say about current social media. So overall, it's watchable if you're in the mood for a teen rom-com.
Yeah, and I'll say two things. Number one, just because something happens all the time doesn't make it good. And
Yeah,
number
that's
two,
true.
I I remember I haven't seen the movie, but when I saw the trailer, I was like, "Oh my God, this is me!" Because I was heavily involved in my high school choir, and I had a certain group of friends there, and I just at times I had this weird feeling that they were talking to me and interested in me, like as some kind of like a balancing act to be like, "Oh, we need a loser, like let's have him," something like that. And it's nothing like I think personally. It's just something upstairs. I guess I'm just always paranoid that people hang out with me because they like feel sorry for me, or that that like they start out liking me, but by the end they'll just be like, "Oh, we got to deal with this person again." So like, not gonna lie, in the beginning I had some feelings like that about you, Rachel. Now I know that your feelings are true, and we're like this. So I'm fine there. But not gonna lie, when it started, I'm like, all right, when quarantine ends, she's gonna drop me like a hot rock. And so it's nothing personal. That's just
Yeah.
how I feel about most people. It's sad,
Mhm.
but it is what it is. But I'm grateful that we've gotten to this point in our relationship, and I'm looking forward to keeping it going.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm grateful too. And I mean, there's always those sort of phases in new relationships, especially if you can't like really be with each other. You kind of have to I think it takes a little bit longer. But yeah, I mean, I just thought it was interesting that there's just sort of this idea of that, I don't know, that just how thick of skin teenagers have to have these days, that stuff that would have been so devastating that is now just kind of normal, which is interesting. And as you say, yeah, not an excuse for it, but I thought it brought up some interesting discussions of how we treat people, how things have changed. And I do think they have pretty good chemistry. There's a really good kiss in this movie. Um, so yeah, it might be triggering. Maybe maybe not the best one for somebody who's been bullied or has certain issues with that. But
I
it's an
haven't
okay movie, not a great movie, but it's all right.
I haven't seen the movie, and yet it sounds like it deals in some things like this way better than 13 Reasons Why.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So for
yeah.
that regard, I automatically see that as a plus.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of those Netflix rom-coms, like The Kissing Booth. I mean, this is miles better than that. And I wish that Mae Whitman could get more lead roles because I really like her. But she needs to stop playing teenagers. She's
She has
too old.
outgrown that part of her career.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what is your next pick?
So my next choice is from 2007. It's an animated movie, and again, I had to double check to see if I had recommended this before, but it turns out I had not. And so here I am recommending TMNT. This is the animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that was released in 2007. And I've never pretended to be a big Ninja Turtles fan. My most exposure to it was the 2003 show on Foxbox, which if anyone from like the early 2000s remembers that, I love you for that. And this movie, and of course the Michael Bay produced ones, which are both terrible, and I won't be talking about those again here. But this movie is actually a lot better than I remember it being. And this is someone who is not a huge fan of TMNT. This was a pleasant surprise. I liked the dynamics between the brothers. Uh, the guy in red, I'm going to get roasted, but the guy in red was
Mm, I
Donatello.
can't remember.
Let's go with Donatello. He's trying to strike it out on his own, and I like the dynamic there. I like Kate
Raphael is the red one.
Raphael. Thank you. Raphael is trying to go solo. I like what they did there with that whole angle. I like Casey Jones. It's one of those movies that I forgot how much I liked, and then I went back and watched it about a year or so ago, and I actually quite enjoyed it. Certainly better than the TMNT movies, and there I am mentioning the Michael Bay ones, but certainly better than those. And I think if maybe you're someone who is not super into them but want to maybe see what they're all about, I would recommend this as like a starter for you.
This is animated, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen it, but it's been a long time. Isn't Patrick Stewart a voice in it?
If my memory serves, yes. I was trying to remember. Let me look that up really quick. Yes, he voices Winters, which I believe is one of the cops.
Mm.
Mako returns as Splinter. They got Chris Evans as Casey Jones, which awesome choice.
Mm.
Sarah Michelle Gellar is April O'Neil. That's a good choice as well. They got Lawrence Fishburne as a narrator. They got Nolan North as Raphael, which shout out to him for being in the Uncharted movie as a cameo. He was the voice of Nathan Drake from those games. So shout
Yeah.
out to him.
I figured that's who he was. I'm like, this obviously means something to the games, this moment,
Yeah.
because it really stuck out. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
I had trouble placing him because when like the camera was focusing, I'm like, who is this stranger in the beach chair? And then he's like, "What happened to you?" And Nathan Drake is like, "We fell out of a cargo plane." And then the dude is like, "Yeah, I know that feeling." I'm like, "That's Nolan North. There you go." And that was nice that they included him, even if it was just for 1 second. Now they got to get Troy Baker, who was the original voice of Sam, and hopefully we're getting an Uncharted sequel, so we'll get the voice of Nathan Drake and Sam Drake in there as well.
Well, my next pick is also an animated film, and it is called My Little Pony: A New Generation. And this is actually a sequel to Friendship is Magic, which, of course, was the highly popular series that even had a movie itself, My Little Pony, the movie. And this is takes place after the time of Friendship is Magic, but basically they've lost the magic, and the ponies have kind of forgotten, and so they start to try to remember. There's a basically a pony, a unicorn, go on this adventure to try to bring back the magic to Equestria. And I just thought this movie was really cute. I thought the animation, it's different than Friendship is Magic. It's instead of being the Flash 2D style of Friendship is Magic, this is the CGI style. But I thought they did a really good job with the character designs. I thought they looked so cute. And this one, I don't know if it will have the same sort of crossover for the bronies and older for adults and things like that. This seems even more for little girls, little kids. But I still enjoyed it. And basically, you have this main horse who named Sunny Star. New horse name. Oh shoot, sorry, I lost it. What's the last name? You have this new horse who believes that she can bring all of the ponies, the Pegasus, and the unicorns all back together. and that they can become friends. And it's just sweet and lovely, and got a great voice cast: Vanessa Hudgens, James Marsden, Sophia Carson, Ken Jeong, Jane Krakowski. The list goes on. And they're starting a new series, but I kind of like that they gave this its own visual style and its own feel, so you're not constantly comparing it to Friendship is Magic. And you have they had the Twilight Sparkle introduce the new stories, but these are its own thing, which is nice. So I think especially little kids will love it.
Yeah, I just was looking up some images, and the animation looks really, really nice.
Yeah, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. It looks really, they just did a really good job. And the characters are so huggable and cute that I really enjoy that. So, what is your next pick?
So my next choice is, well, here's a hard left for us. It's from 2007, and it is called Secret Window. I reviewed this for my Stephen King month all the way back in 2018. Yeah, it was 2018 or 19. The last couple of years just booze on the timeline. But I know I reviewed Secret Window as part of my Stephen King month because it was 2019 because we were getting It Chapter 2 and Doctor Sleep in the same year. And so I said to myself, now's as good a time as any to do a Stephen King month, and Secret Window was a part of that. It is based on the novel written by Stephen King, and it tells the story of an author named Mort, played by Johnny Depp, who is trying and failing to write a new book. However, he comes across or is approached by a man named John Shooter. Yes, that is his name, played by John Turturro, who claims that Mort stole his story. Not just any story, but the story that made Mort's name gave him any credence whatsoever. And so Mort is like, no, I really don't know what you're talking about, and Shooter just will not let it go. And so it starts out as a bit of a stalking movie, but then it kind of flips 180. That's where the twist comes in. I will not spoil it, but let's just say you think you know where the movie's going, and then something happens. This was directed by David Koepp, who also wrote it, and David Koepp is probably best known for writing for the screen Jurassic Park. You may have heard of it. Like, David Koepp is still working to this day. I am blanking. He worked on a movie recently that I actually quite enjoyed. And I know that he was right. He wrote Kimmy for HBO Max.
Oh yeah, I've
And
heard that's
that
good.
movie was awesome. So David Koepp is still rocking it.
Oh yeah, he's written tons of stuff.
All these years later. Yeah, he did the first Spider-Man, Sam Raimi one, the first Mission Impossible, which I love, and people are like, ugh, Mission Impossible 1. I'm like, are you serious? The Langley
Yeah, that's a
heist
fun
is right
movie.
there. Hello.
Death Becomes Her, which is really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
He's had
Yeah.
some duds, like he wrote Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Okay. But he also did Zathura, which is another underrated one that I think I've recommended once before.
Huh?
So David Koepp is really, really solid. And this isn't like the best movie based off of Stephen King, but I find it really enjoyable. The mystery is really what hooks you.
Yeah, I've actually, believe it or not, actually seen this one. It is pretty good. It did feel a little slow to me. The pacing's a little slow, but I didn't mind it. I enjoyed watching it. And Johnny Depp is usually a pretty good actor when he's trying.
Yeah, he's actually trying here, and again, and especially in the other half. No spoilers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, my next pick is going back to animation. And this was a little gem that this has now been nominated for animated short at the Oscars from last year. It's called Robin Robin. This is from our friends over at Aardman, and it is so cute. It's about a bird that's raised by mice. So he thinks he's a mouse, but he's a bird. He's a robin. And it's also a Christmas story, and it has like a full musical number. It's just the cutest thing. I defy anybody to not think this little Robin is adorable. So if you haven't seen it, you got to see it. It's great. I hope it wins. Since my beloved Us Again didn't get nominated, I hope that Robin wins for best animated short. And I'm so excited about this relationship between Aardman and Netflix. I just think it's so great that that Netflix is using its power for good, not evil.
Yeah, when I was recording an episode of Life in the Movies with Jacob, he was talking about how he recently watched Chicken Run, or rewatched Chicken Run, and I was talking about how much that movie's awesome, and then I parlayed that into saying Netflix partnering with Aardman is probably the best thing that could happen to Aardman, because
Yeah.
Aardman has the possibility now of getting their wares in front of hundreds of millions of subscribers, and then it's a bit more of a plus for them, because they put it into theaters, and the last couple ones have just been kind of bombs. It's been sad, but that's the truth. And so for them to partner up with Netflix, like, the viewer base is already there. So if they get good word of mouth going, then Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, yeah. And we have a new Wallace and Gromit coming. We have a new Chicken Run coming.
Which
And hopefully they'll keep...
both of them I'm excited for.
Me too.
It's going to be weird to see how they recast the voice of Mel Gibson as Rocky, but I have a feeling that they're going to make it work. And anything Wallace and Gromit related, I'm automatically on board for. I love those two to death.
Well, I think they're recasting Ginger as well.
Really?
Yeah, which I know some people were pretty upset about. I forget who it was that they have planned. If it might be Julia Roberts, somebody like that. I can't remember. But anyway, it was a star, so people were upset. But
I'll keep an open mind, but I do not agree with that decision.
Yeah. All right, what's your last pick?
So my last choice is from 2017, and it is a Steven Spielberg movie that nobody really talks about. It's the BFG. And I remember seeing this, and I was like, okay, this isn't Spielberg's best, but it's still Spielberg, so he's got his fingerprints all over it, and that's cool. And nobody saw it, and I just can't imagine why. Maybe, I guess, the world just wasn't ready for Mark Rylance as a huge giant, like, eating vegetables. Who knows? But I just like this movie. I can't put my finger on why, but I just like it. I like the animation. I like the effects on Rylance. I love the cinematography that they have when they go to that tree. I think the glowing tree, if my memory serves. I hope, Rachel, you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, that one is really good. I don't know, and the whole scene where the ugly giant is like bullying the BFG, like with the whole vegetables thing and the whole slicing of the vegetables and those cucumber looking things. Like, I thought that was actually handled pretty well. So again, not top tier Spielberg, but I dig this one.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since it came out, so I'm a little rusty on it, but I did love the book growing up, so I was really excited for it. So it was a little bit disappointing when I actually saw it, but I don't think it's necessarily like terrible. It definitely has its sweet moments and its funny moments, and the pacing is on the slow side. But I think people go in expecting E.T., expecting the sort of classic Spielberg, and so when something's like more moderately successful, it's they feel super disappointing. It's one of those expectations things, I think, sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Plus it's Spielberg, and he's had such a legendary run that his lesser movies will get lost in the shuffle. I mean, the man's 1993 alone, he directed one of the highest grossing movies of the 90s, Jurassic Park, and directed the Best Picture winner of that year in Schindler's List.
Yeah.
That's like God tier status right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Disney wishes it had done better. I mean, they lost their shirt on this movie, so, well.
I mean, they can afford it, so they afford to lose a couple shirts here and there.
Yeah, and they do. If you actually look back on the new properties that Disney has tried, not their remakes, they have had a really terrible track record as far as the box office.
Yeah.
There hasn't not been really anything. I mean, the closest to something like Jungle Cruise, which still kind of underperformed for what it was. Um,
And you can only blame COVID so much. Like, we're
right.
living in times now where people are still concerned, but people are still like, okay, as long as I've
Mm-hmm.
got my mask, I think I can make it work.
Yeah, that Jungle Cruise, it should have been better. It was okay, but it should have been better. I mean, and granted, they haven't been able to get a new franchise off the ground, partly because the movies just haven't been that good. You know, whether it's Lone Ranger or Wrinkle in Time, or I mean, there's just been a lot of duds
It
from Disney.
it doesn't really help that Lone Ranger had that Johnny Depp performance where he's like, "No, give us up a huge explosion,
Yeah,
bang!" Like
that was
that
bad.
whole
It was bad.
crap, and then A Wrinkle in Time having large Oprah like just looming
Yeah,
over
it was
everyone, like,
bad. They've
"Hello,
been bad.
how are," like,
Yeah.
and I
I,
read the A Wrinkle in Time in when I was going to Catholic school, and I knew they were going to be toning down certain elements of it,
right. Which
like
was such a shame.
like replacing that with like large Oprah and large Reese Witherspoon, it was like, guys, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I said I felt like it was a yoga seminar made to a feature film.
I
It was
won't lie.
bad.
I won't lie though. What they did with the Upside Down was actually kind of well thought out. I wish they had done more of that, but it's distracting because of the whole hello with like like the sky high Oprah is like,
Yeah.
oh, she
Yeah,
didn't think
there's
she doesn't have a big ego, she says. Hmm.
but there really is there's so many attempts to try to get new franchises or to, you know, Artemis Fowl was obviously a disaster. There is there I'm trying to think. There's just been tons, and they have not been able to. John Carter, that you know was a big bomb. They just have not had a successful new live action franchise. It's not a remake since the original Pirates. I really don't think they have.
Yeah, they tried their hardest to try and recapture the pirates' magic, and it was literally a combination of the sun, the moon, and the planets, and all the stars coming in perfect alignment to get the Curse of the Black Pearl to where it was.
Yeah,
They did it with Haunted Mansion. They even relaunched Tron, which I love Tron Legacy, but even then, it's like it's
box office just hasn't been there. Yeah,
yeah, it's like I look at Disney's like recent things and it's like, thank God for Pixar and Marvel who are carrying this company.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean,
Marvel
Star
is
Wars did pretty well too.
like Kevin Feige is literally like nearly popping his shoulder out of socket, carrying the entire Disney corporation on his back.
All right. Well, my last pick, it was one of my favorite movies of 2021. I loved it. And so in the world of the Christmas world, this is not a hidden gem. Most people love it, but I think outside of that, not as many people have seen it. It's Single All the Way. I absolutely loved this movie. This movie is so joyful and wonderful about this man who convinces his roommate, a longtime roommate, to come home with him and pretend that they are engaged, which, you know, I love a fake fiance relationship plot, my favorites. And of course, as they're pretending to be engaged, they start thinking about each other in a new way. And his family is just the best, so lovely. You have Kathleen and Jimmy, you have Barry Bostwick as his parents, you have you have Jennifer Coolidge as his aunt, who is so funny. She is this failed Broadway actress, and so she's in charge of putting on the the nativity, and she makes herself the fairy godmother of the nativity scene, which is really funny. And I don't know, I absolutely loved this movie. It made me so happy. They had great chemistry, and it's Michael Urie and Philemon Chambers. And Philemon Chambers, this was like his first acting role ever, which is really impressive because he does a good job. And I just thought they had wonderful chemistry, and it made me really happy to watch it. So
Man, for someone who is like in their first acting role, they knocked it out of the park. It sounds like.
oh, unbelievable. I couldn't believe that was his first role. Amazing. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It was a great, heartwarming Christmas movie. So there we go. We did it.
Awesome.
Let us know if you're listening what you have been watching on Netflix, what you've been enjoying. We got some fun stuff coming up on Netflix. We got Bridgerton coming up pretty soon, and I'm really looking forward to that. There's always fun stuff coming to Netflix. So let us know what you've been watching. And Ryan, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. And there's, of course, my YouTube channel, which is just called Ryan Cam. I dipped below 200, but now I am solidly back at 200. So I guess I'm back to my regularly scheduled programming. But coming to the channel, got another Twilight Zone review. This time it's going to be the episode Nick of Time, which was the first appearance of William Shatner. He would appear most famously in the Terror at 10,000 Feet episode, but this Nick of Time episode was his first appearance in the zone, and he would be returning. So that's going to be up. And then Jacob and I will be returning with Life in the Movies podcast. I'm having the time of my life doing that. So that'll be dropping Wednesday. I'm going to be trying to have reviews for Studio 666, the Foo Fighters horror movie. It's going to be interesting to see what that turns out to be. And as well as Serrano, there's a theater close to me that's showing it, so I'm going to see it. And then going to round out my Batman series by covering Batman and Robin, also with Jacob and Martin. Please pray for my soul returning to that awful movie. But that's all coming to the channel. If you have not checked me out, please do.
Yeah, definitely. You also check it out. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And also make sure you check out the Hallmarkies podcast for lots of fun content. And please check out the Patreon group. We are having our patron watch along when this airs. It'll be that night with writer Sarah Montana, and we're watching Love to the Rescue, which I love. So I'm really excited about that. We got lots of fun perks at the Patreon, and then also the merch store where you can get hashtag Animation Junkie shirts. So please take a look at that and more. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.